What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SmoovePlayz podcast. I'm Austin, aka Austin Plays, with my boy Dean, and we just finished talking about our Sunday slate, which at the time that this video comes out is wrapping up or already completed. And now we're getting into our prime time game, Sunday Night Football between Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons and JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. Two guys who were no, number one picks for their teams last year. Both of them were backups to start the year. Penix got a little playing time, and now like this is the first season. I mean, are we seeing the future of the NFL here on Sunday night, Dean?
I think that's what the NFL is going for. I don't know about you, but I thought Michael Penix looked pretty good in week one.
I definitely thought he looked good. I think that he definitely had a tough matchup going up against Tampa Bay. I think Tampa's defense is better than what honestly they played better than what I thought they were going to play. And then my biggest thing for Atlanta in that game was just like I'm not going to get into it right now, but we'll get into it later. Yeah, Michael Penix looked good. That's the bottom line. I think all things considered, Michael Penix looked good. He made a lot of good throws. He missed a couple here and there, but for the most part, I think Penix played well. And then JJ McCarthy, I mean, looked complete opposite. Looked pretty rough to get it started, but then the fourth quarter happened and uh, we saw a different JJ McCarthy. Is he going to be able to carry that momentum from week one into week two at home?
I mean, you would think so, right? Coming back home, like that had to give him a ton of confidence, just that fourth quarter in that Bears game. But also, that game kind of just is who JJ McCarthy is, I feel like, right? Like, kind of always been underlooked. Like, no one really is super high on him. He went to Michigan, and like, they're just gritty, and no one really talked about him, even though he was a first round pick. Like, he wasn't no one thought he was the reason Michigan won the national championship. They all thought it
Yeah.
was that deep. So I thought McCarthy was kind of just that game was like what everyone has said about him for a while. And like you said, he played great in the fourth quarter and ultimately won them that game. Now they're coming back home playing Atlanta. What do you think Minnesota has to do in this one to beat Atlanta?
So I think for Minnesota to win this game, I already basically, so this is my thought process. Looking at the game last week, they started off bad, and then JJ McCarthy threw a pick six, and I was like, that's it. I thought the game was over at that point. Once McCarthy threw that pick six, I was like, they're done. Game's over. Bears win. And JJ McCarthy showed me a lot. To be able to do that, put it behind you, come out and answer takes a lot from a guy in his first start on the road, like in a divisional game. That takes a lot, and so I was very impressed with JJ McCarthy, even though he didn't put up the best numbers statistically. Just the adversity and being able to battle back was very impressive to me. I think if you're Minnesota, though, you don't want to be in that situation every week. I think the biggest thing is going to be starting out fast, and I think that they're going to need to come out their opening drive and go down and get points on the board. And I think if they can go out there get like a first quarter touchdown, that's going to be really big for them. They got to start fast, I think, and that's my biggest thing for Minnesota probably going into this one.
Okay, I like that angle. What about for Atlanta? What do you think for Atlanta?
I mean, for Atlanta, Atlanta's a tricky one because you're coming off a loss of a game that you were at home and feel like you should have probably won, and that's where it kind of now we're going to see adversity for Michael Penix. How are you going to be able to respond? You've had a week to kind of reflect, look at the film, realize, all right, I might have missed a throw here or there. You know, how are you going to respond and battle through that adversity here coming into a hostile environment in Minnesota where they're going to be sculling.
Yeah, Minnesota's a tough place to play. One thing I think Atlanta needs to do, they got to get Bijan going on the ground more. Like he had 100 receiving yards in that Bucks game, but he had 24 rushing yards. which was tied for Tyler Algier for the team lead. They got to get that ground game going. I mean, Michael Penix had almost 300 yards passing in that game. You can't expect that out of him every game. I know they have weapons, but got to get Bijan going on the ground. It's going to be tough against this defense and Brian Flores. I'm interested to see if Darnell Mooney can come back. I think Darnell Mooney is very underrated, and I think he adds something big for Atlanta because that gives them Mooney, London, Pitts, and then obviously Robinson, and that makes them very hard to guard, um, very hard to defend. And so I think that's the key for Atlanta. Get Bijan going. What do you think about who do you think's winning this game? That's the question everyone wants to hear.
I mean, So Minnesota's favored by 4 points basically, and I think that's a very, very appropriate line. I do actually I believe that this Minnesota team is going to be able to carry that momentum and going into week two now at home, be able to ride the wave and just kind of keep it going. But then I look at Atlanta and I'm like, Tampa's defense is good. They, like you said, Penix threw for 300 yards, missed a few throws, like and had a couple of drops that kept points off the board. So who's to say that Atlanta isn't gonna just go out there and be the message being for Atlanta, hey, we played pretty well. The scoreboard doesn't reflect it, but we still played well. If we go out and replicate what we did in week one, who's to say we don't put up, 24, 28 points and our defense can put pressure on a young quarterback and limit points because we've seen already this Minnesota offense kind of getting off to slow starts. So if Atlanta can kind of help slow down that or keep them from getting going, I think that Atlanta has a good shot at winning it. And also, one thing I want to note, I mean, Aaron Jones looked like he's taken a massive step back.
Yeah, that's I kind of expected that. Actually had him in fantasy last year, so I watched him a lot, and I could see it. Just I could foresee it happening. That's why I do actually have. I mean, Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason's a good running back. I'm not gonna lie, and I think Jordan Mason actually adds. And they will give the ball to Jones too. To obviously, it's not just Jordan Mason, but Jones also had that 30-yard touchdown reception. So obviously, they're going to have a little committee here in Minnesota, and I like it with Mason and Jones a lot better than just Jones or just Mason. Honestly, having both of them rotate, I think, is actually going to be pretty good for this Vikings team.
Yeah, I like Mason, and I think that because Jones is clearly taking a step back, him I think it might be in the best interest for Minnesota to kind of designate him as like that third down back and a pass catching back, because that's always been a pretty big part of his game as well. So I think that if that is kind of the role that he has to assume, he'll do it and he'll do it well. But I don't think like he's definitely not the three down back that he's been in the past. So. Um, who are you picking? I know I'm leaning on lean. I know I'm leaning a little bit more towards Atlanta, but I want to hear what you have to say in terms of who you think's winning this game.
I know it might sound like I'm saying this a lot, but I actually agree with almost everything you said. Like, I think Atlanta has the weapons. I think Darnell Mooney being healthy or not plays a factor in this game for sure. I actually like Atlanta to win the game outright. I think Atlanta, like you said, who's to say they can't go up, put out, or I mean, go out there and put up, 24 points or so. And then you got a guy like McCarthy, who I know obviously Penix isn't a veteran quarterback. I'm not saying that, but I just, I know I was just talking about how JJ McCarthy's always under the radar, but I'm keeping him under the radar. I think Michael Penix and the Falcons are going to go into Minnesota and win this game.
Yeah, I don't think you can take away, you mentioned Penix being a young quarterback, but you can't take away he does still have game time experience. He played last year versus McCarthy, who didn't play at all last year.
Mhm.
So I think that and a big thing, this Atlanta team we talked about week one, their kind of vision for how they want this season to go. They think that they're a playoff team. They think they can win the NFC South, and I believe that if there is a team that is going to dethrone the four-time NFC South champions in Tampa Bay, Atlanta's going to do it, and this is the year to do it. So I think starting off 0-2 is definitely not going to be what you want to do if that's what you're aspiring for. And so I think that this Atlanta team is going to be fired up to go on the road and play the villain in Minnesota and go out there and get a W on the road as an underdog.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree with the 0-2 angle because we know when teams go to 0-2, like that's such a and this is a tough game. Like the fact that they had to play a tough divisional game week one, then they go at Minnesota. I mean, that's a tough draw for Atlanta. But I like you said, I think this is a must-win game. They cannot start out 0-2.
All right. Well,
Where you got any touchdown scores?
well, if Justin Jefferson didn't score last week, I probably would have took Jettas. I like TJ Hawkinson from Minnesota, and I think that TJ Hawkinson is a good pick to find the end zone. Um, but I'm not actually I've been, we're both kind of on the same page about Atlanta, and I'm gonna go with the guy that year in, year out has been a disappointment, and people think that he's gonna break out. I think that Kyle Pitts finds the end zone here in week
Wow.
two on prime time.
Never thought you'd say that because my pick is Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is scoring. I think he's
Kyle
scoring.
Pitts, hey, this is the year. Bro, Kyle Pitts has been in the league for the last four. I think this is year five.
Let's see. I believe it's year four, but it's year five. This is his fifth season.
So year five, and he's 24 years old.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Like
he's
he
this.
still hasn't hit his prime window. Like this
Yeah.
is where his prime window should start, and I think he's getting his first touchdown of the year on prime time football.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Kyle Pitts was going to be my pick no matter what, and I also have him in fantasy, so
Oh,
maybe that's
I
why.
got him in
But
fantasy too, buddy.
yeah,
I'm
no.
falling for the trap yet again.
I agree with you. It's his fifth season, but he's only 24. I mean, the guy's 20. Even in 2 years, he's only gonna be 26, and it's gonna be his seventh season. Like, I'm still probably gonna draft him in fantasy then,
Yeah.
honestly.
All right.
So
Well, I think that that pretty much covers this matchup. You got any closing remarks you want to get out before we wrap this thing up?
I got nothing. Let's just hope for a good weekend of football, man.
Hey, I think that this weekend is loaded, and I think, like I said in the last video, if week one was any indication, we're definitely going to be, you know, in for some good football. Now we haven't seen it yet because of the time we're recording this, but that Sunday slate has already happened. Sunday night football, Carey kicking us off, and it's gonna be. I think that this is another just dynamite primetime game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited for this one. It'll be very fun to watch.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap this one up. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Leave a comment down below your thoughts on how you think that this game between the Falcons and the Vikings are going to go. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not. And Dane, if that's all we got, then we'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Peace.